The scent of my mother's signature biryani wafted through our family home, but tonight it didn't bring the usual comfort. I sat at the kitchen counter staring at my laptop screen, double-checking the numbers I'd spent months researching. Behind me, Mom slammed cabinet doors with increasing force, her passive-aggressive way of showing disapproval. "Sophia," she said, stirring the pot with more vigor than necessary. $200,000. Your entire savings. For what? Empty desert land in the middle of nowhere. I took a deep breath. "Mom, it's not nowhere. It's strategically located." "Located?" She scoffed. "There's nothing there but dust and cacti. Meanwhile, your brother's wedding is not my responsibility," I finished quietly, though my heart raced. The words felt like betrayal even as I said them. Mom set down her spoon with a clang. "Family is responsibility, Sophia. Boys. Your father and I didn't raise you to be so selfish." The front door opened and I heard multiple voices. Dad, my brother Adam, and his fiancée Melissa. Perfect timing. The family tribunal was about to begin. "There she is," Adam announced, his voice carrying that fake cheerfulness he'd perfected since getting engaged. My favorite sister, still obsessing over her desert dreams instead of helping with wedding plans? I closed my laptop slowly, buying time to compose myself. The land acquisition documents were sitting in my email, waiting for my final signature. Just 24 more hours and the deal would be mine. 160 acres of prime location desert property that nobody else seemed to understand the value of. Yet, "Adam," I started, "I've already explained that you're abandoning your only brother?" Melissa cut in, her designer handbag swinging accusingly. "Do you know how embarrassing it is to tell people that my future sister-in-law won't even contribute to our special day?" My father, who'd been quietly hanging up his coat, finally spoke. "Sophia, we need to talk about this. Family meeting. Now." I followed them into the living room, my laptop clutched to my chest like armor. The same room where we'd celebrated birthdays, holidays, Adam's engagement. Now it felt like a courtroom and I was the defendant. Dad settled into his leather recliner, the one he'd bought after making partner at his law firm. "Show me these investment documents everyone's talking about." I opened my laptop, pulled up the satellite maps, the development plans, the infrastructure proposals. "Look, the state is planning major development in this corridor. There are signs that big tech companies are." "Speculation," Dad interrupted. "All of it. You're gambling your entire savings on rumors and hunches while your brother needs real support for his future." "My future matters too," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "This land, it's not just dirt. It's potential. The kind of opportunity that comes once in a lifetime." Adam laughed, but it wasn't kind. "Once in a lifetime? Sophia, you sound like those crypto bros who lost everything. This is worse than when you tried to convince us to invest in Amazon stock in 2005. And I was right then, wasn't I?" I shot back. "If you'd listened, if any of you had listened." "Enough." Mom's voice cracked through the room. "This isn't about stocks or land or money. This is about family. About priorities." I looked around the room at these people I loved who'd supported me through so much, now united in their certainty that I was making a massive mistake. But they hadn't done the research. Hadn't spent months analyzing development patterns, tracking permit applications, following the breadcrumbs that major tech companies left when they were planning expansions. "The wedding venue alone is $80,000, Melissa said, her voice dripping with accusation. "Your share would have made such a difference. But instead you're throwing it away on empty desert." I stood up, my hands shaking but my voice steady. "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm investing in my future. And I'm not responsible for funding your wedding." The room went silent. Even the usual neighborhood sounds seemed to stop. Dad's face darkened, the same look he got when dealing with difficult clients. "If you do this," he said slowly, "if you choose this foolish investment over supporting your brother's wedding, don't expect to be welcome at that wedding. Or in this house." My heart stopped. "Dad." "He's right," Adam jumped in. "You want to act like you're not part of this family? Fine. Be that way." Mom started crying, soft hiccuping sobs that felt like physical blows. How did we raise such a selfish daughter? I looked at each of them, these people who shaped my life, who taught me to think for myself, to work hard, to follow my dreams, now demanding I abandon those very principles. "I'm not being selfish," I said quietly. I'm being smart. And one day you'll see that. Out. Dad's voice was cold. Take your laptop, take your desert dreams and get out. When you come to your senses, when you're ready to be part of this family again, maybe we'll talk. I packed my laptop with trembling hands, walked to the door on legs that felt like lead. Behind me, Melissa was already whispering about replanning the wedding without me. Mom's sobs had gotten louder. Adam wouldn't even look at me. That desert plot is worthless. Dad's voice followed me out. You're throwing away everything, your family, your future, for worthless dirt. I got into my car, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Through the windshield I could see my childhood bedroom window, where I'd spent countless nights studying market trends, learning to analyze opportunities, building the skills that led me to this moment. My phone buzzed, the land acquisition documents ready for final signature. With tears blurring my vision, I signed electronically, watching as my entire savings transformed into 160 acres of desert land that only I seemed to believe in. That night in my small apartment I spread out all my research across the floor. Satellite images, development proposals, infrastructure plans. I wasn't crazy. The signs were there for anyone willing to look closely enough. Major tech companies had been quietly buying up land through shell corporations. The state had approved preliminary plans for massive water and power expansions in the area. Something big was coming. I just had to hold on long enough to prove it. The next few weeks passed in a blur of silence. No calls from Mom, no texts from Adam, not even angry emails from Dad. Just complete radio silence, broken only by social media updates about wedding preparations I was no longer part of. I threw myself into work, tracking every development in the area, following up on every rumor, every permit application. My tiny apartment became a command center of maps and documents. Sometimes late at night doubt would creep in. What if they were right? What if I'd thrown away everything for nothing? But then I'd review my research, double-check my calculations, and the certainty would return. The patterns were there. The signs were clear. I just needed time. It came exactly 11 weeks after my family threw me out. I was at work reviewing property assessments for my real estate firm, when my phone started buzzing. News alerts, text messages, emails, all saying the same thing. Tesla announces new gigafactory location. My hands shook as I opened the press release. There it was, in black and white, the exact corridor I'd invested in. My land wasn't just in the development zone, it was dead center in the planned campus. Within hours my phone was exploding with calls. Real estate developers, investment firms, and yes, Tesla's corporate office. But the calls I waited for, the ones from my family, didn't come. Not that day anyway. I sat in my apartment that night, surrounded by the research that had cost me my family but had just made me a multimillionaire on paper. The same documents they'd called worthless were now worth more than they could imagine. My phone buzzed again. Another offer higher than the last. But I wasn't ready to sell. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about vindication. About proving that sometimes, being called crazy by everyone you love doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you can see something they can't. The morning after Tesla's announcement, I woke up to 78 missed calls. Real estate agents, developers, investors, and buried among them 3 from my mother, 2 from Adam, and 1 from Dad. I ignored them all. Instead, I made coffee and opened my laptop to find my inbox flooded. Subject lines screamed, urgent offer, and immediate purchase opportunity. The most interesting email came from Tesla's acquisition team, requesting a meeting to discuss my property. My phone buzzed again. Sophia. Her voice was small, uncertain. We saw the news. Did you? I kept my voice neutral, years of negotiating real estate deals finally paying off in personal life. Your father. We didn't understand. No, I said quietly. You didn't try to understand. Silence stretched between us, heavy with 3 months of absence. The wedding is next week, she finally said. Maybe you could. I have meetings, I cut her off. With Tesla's corporate team. About my worthless desert plot. I ended the call before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. From power. For the first time in my life I held all the cards. The Tesla meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at their temporary offices downtown. I chose my outfit carefully, charcoal gray suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. Professional, not desperate. Confident, not arrogant. Ms. Harrison, their lead negotiator, James Wilson, greeted me with practiced warmth. We're very interested in your property. I imagine you are, I replied, taking my seat at the conference table. Given that it's central to your planned campus. He smiled, sliding a document across the table. We'd like to make an offer. I glanced at the number and kept my face carefully neutral, though my heart skipped. It was 8 times what I'd paid 3 months ago. That's an interesting starting point, I said, closing the folder. Wilson's smile faltered slightly. Starting point. Mr. Wilson, we both know this property is essential to your timeline. You've already announced the location. Permits are being filed. Construction crews are being contracted. Delays would be costly. His expression shifted. Now he was really seeing me not just a lucky investor but someone who'd done their homework. What are you proposing? I pulled out my own folder. I have 3 other offers from developers. I also have preliminary approval for my own development plan. A bluff but a calculated one. I'm happy to work with Tesla, but it needs to make sense for my investors. Investors? He raised an eyebrow. A figure of speech, I smiled. Though I do have several interested parties. The dance continued for hours. Numbers were discussed, terms negotiated, conditions debated. By the time I left the building, the sun was setting and I had a letter of intent for a deal worth nearly 12 times my initial investment. My phone had been silently buzzing in my bag throughout the meeting. I finally checked it in my car. Dad, we need to talk. Adam, you could have told us what you knew. Melissa, this doesn't change anything about the wedding. Mom, please come home. Please. I started my car, but instead of heading to my apartment, I found myself driving to our family home. The same home I'd been thrown out of 3 months ago. Dad's car was in the driveway, along with Adam's new BMW. Before I could change my mind, the front door opened. Mom stood there looking smaller than I remembered. I saw your car, she said softly. Please come in. The living room was exactly as I'd left it that night, down to the real estate documents still scattered on the coffee table. Dad sat in his recliner, but he wasn't relaxed. Adam and Melissa sat on the couch, her engagement ring catching the light as she fidgeted. So, Dad cleared his throat. Tesla. Yes, I said, remaining standing. Tesla. Why didn't you tell us? Adam burst out. You knew they were coming. You knew and you kept it secret while we all thought you were crazy. I looked at him incredulously. I tried to tell you. I showed you all my research. You didn't want to listen. Because it seemed impossible, Dad said. Desert land? No development? No infrastructure. No vision, I corrected. No trust in me. No respect for my judgment. Melissa stood up suddenly. This doesn't change anything about the wedding. We've replanned everything without your contribution. We don't need your money now. I laughed and the sound surprised even me. You never needed my money. You wanted my submission. My obedience to family expectations. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted, a wedding without your crazy sister-in-law. Sophia, Mom pleaded. We're still family. Are we? I turned to her. Because family trusts each other. Family listens. Family doesn't throw you out for believing in yourself. Dad stood up, lawyer mode engaged. We were worried about you. Making such a huge investment with no guaranteed return. Stop. My voice was quiet but firm. You weren't worried about me. You were angry that I wouldn't conform. That I dared to have a vision beyond what you could see. And now you're rich, Adam said bitterly. Is that what you came to tell us? To rub it in? I pulled out my phone and showed them the Tesla offer. The number made Mom gasp and Dad sink back into his chair. I came to show you what believing in myself looks like, I said. What trusting my judgment got me. Not to get back into the wedding, not to repair what you broke, but to make sure you understand exactly what you dismissed. Melissa grabbed her bag. This is ridiculous. Adam, we're leaving. But Adam was staring at the number on my phone, his face pale. That's more than our entire wedding budget. More than my annual salary. More than you thought your sister was worth? I finished for him. The room fell silent. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights sweeping across the family photos on the wall, happy moments frozen in time, before dreams of desert land and wedding expectations tore us apart. What do you want? Dad finally asked. To punish us? To make us feel foolish? I looked at each of them in turn. The family that had shaped me, supported me, then abandoned me when I needed them most. I want you to remember this moment, I said quietly. The next time someone shows you a dream you can't understand, remember the daughter you threw away for believing in herself. Remember what it cost you. Cost us. Mom's voice cracked. Sophia, please. We can fix this. Come to the wedding. Be part of the family again. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. The family that threw me out doesn't get to celebrate my success. You can't dismiss me one day and claim me the next. That's not how this works. As I drove away, my phone started buzzing again. More calls, more messages, more pleas. But I felt lighter somehow. Vindication, I was learning, didn't always bring reconciliation. Sometimes it just brought clarity. The next morning I signed the Tesla deal. The day I signed the Tesla contract, I bought myself a house. Not a mansion or anything flashy, just a modern 3-bedroom home with large windows and a small garden. The kind of place where desert flowers could bloom if given enough care. It was exactly 1 week before Adam's wedding. The media coverage of Tesla's land acquisition had made me something of a local legend. Woman's desert gamble pays off, read one headline. Family rejects daughter's investment, loses millions, declared another. I hadn't given any interviews, but people talked. In a city this size, stories spread. I was in my new home office, reviewing plans for a sustainable technology investment fund I was starting, when my phone lit up with a familiar number. Dad's law firm. Ms. Harrison? His secretary's voice was professional. Your father would like to schedule a meeting to discuss potential investment opportunities. I almost laughed. Tell Mr. Harrison I'm not taking new clients at this time. He said you might say that. He also asked me to remind you that family isn't always about business. I finished. Funny how that works both ways. After hanging up, I walked to my garden. The desert marigolds I'd planted were starting to bloom, tough little flowers that thrived in harsh conditions. Kind of like me. My doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Mom holding what looked like a wedding invitation. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. You look well, she said, taking in my appearance. Success suits you. What do you want, Mom? She held out the invitation. It's not too late to be part of the wedding. He misses you. We all do. Missing someone you threw away isn't the same as respecting them, I replied. We were wrong, she admitted, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. So wrong. But you're still family. I took the invitation but didn't open it. Family isn't something you can switch on and off when it's convenient. You can't disown me when I don't meet your expectations, then claim me when I exceed them. What can we do, she asked quietly, to make this right? I looked at her, really looked at her, the mother who taught me to be strong, to think for myself, then punished me for doing exactly that. You can't make it right, I said. But you can learn from it. Start by asking yourself why you were so quick to dismiss my judgment. Why conformity was more important than supporting my dreams. She wiped her eyes. Your father, he's struggling with this. With being so wrong. Dad's struggling with his ego, I corrected. With the fact that his foolish daughter proved him wrong in such a public way. He's trying to reach out. Through his secretary? With business proposals. I shook my head. That's not reaching out, Mom. That's trying to capitalize on my success. The wedding invitation felt heavy in my hand. I finally opened it. Inside was a handwritten note from Adam. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please come. Mom watched me read it. He means it. I'm sure he does, I said. No. After Tesla. After the media coverage. After I proved my worth in terms he can understand. You're angry, she observed. No, I replied, surprising myself with the truth of it. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just different. Success didn't change me, having to stand alone did. I handed the invitation back to her. I won't be attending the wedding. Not because I'm holding a grudge, but because that chapter of our family dynamic is over. The daughter who would have set aside her own dreams to make everyone else comfortable doesn't exist anymore. And what about the future? She asked, her voice small. Will you shut us out forever? I gestured to my garden. See those flowers? They're desert flowers. They don't need constant attention or perfect conditions. They just need space to grow on their own terms. That's what I need too. Space doesn't mean forever, she said. No, I agreed. But it means until I'm ready. Until this success isn't the reason for reconciliation. Until the family understands that loving someone means supporting their dreams, even when those dreams look like empty desert to you. After she left, I sat in my garden watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. My phone buzzed with another news alert: Tesla breaking ground on their new facility. The ceremony would be next month. I'd been invited as a special guest. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd be standing on that desert plot watching the future being built, while my family celebrated a wedding I wouldn't attend. But that's the thing about choices, they all have prices. My family chose conformity over vision. I chose belief in myself over their approval. We were all living with those choices now. A week later, on Adam's wedding day, I was in my office finalizing plans for my investment fund. The focus would be on sustainable technology and renewable energy, the kind of forward-thinking investments that others might dismiss as crazy. Just like a certain piece of desert land. My phone buzzed with a text from Adam: "Left an empty seat for you. Just in case." I replied with a picture of my blooming desert marigolds. "Some things grow better with space." He sent back a single heart emoji. Maybe that's what family would look like now, distant hearts beating in rhythm, separated by choice and consequence, but still somehow connected. Not by obligation or tradition, but by the slow understanding that love doesn't require submission, and success doesn't erase the past. I looked out at my garden at the tough little flowers that found a way to bloom in the desert and smiled. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't in proving others wrong, but in proving yourself right. Sometimes the greatest strength isn't in fighting for acceptance, but in being okay without it. The desert taught me that. Empty spaces aren't always worthless. Sometimes they're just waiting for the right person to see their potential, in the land, in themselves, in the future that others can't quite imagine yet. As the sun set on my brother's wedding day, I opened my laptop and started writing a book, Desert Wisdom: Finding Value in Empty Spaces. It wasn't just about real estate or investment strategy. It was about believing in yourself when no one else does. About standing alone until your vision becomes reality. Because sometimes, the most worthless things, be it desert land or dismissed dreams, turn out to be the most valuable of all. You just have to be brave enough to see it. And strong enough to stand by it. Even if you have to stand alone.